Nobody saw the warning signs until it was too late. The day everything broke, I hope that when you die, you receive the punishment you deserve from God. Those words would one day echo through a courtroom in Texas, spoken not by a judge or a prosecutor, but by a teenage girl who survived what should have been impossible. She was the only one left alive after a massacre that erased nearly her entire family in a single afternoon. Seasoned investigators would later admit that this case haunted them. Some cried openly at the scene. Others said they never truly recovered. Because this wasn't just a crime, it was the systematic destruction of a family that had done nothing except try to help someone in need. How does a man once celebrated as a homecoming king become one of the most hated criminals in Texas history? And how did a 15-year-old girl survive an execution-style shooting meant to leave no witnesses? Before we confront the horror itself, we need to understand who the victims were, because they were far more than names in a police report. This is the story of the Stay family. The Stay family lived on a quiet street in Spring, Texas, a place where neighbors waved from their driveways and kids rode their bikes until the sun dipped below the trees. Their home was the kind where laughter spilled out during backyard birthdays and Halloween decorations stayed up a little too long because the kids loved them. Friends described the Stays as an anchor family, the house where all the neighborhood kids gathered, where parents felt safe sending their children, where warmth and normalcy defined everyday life. Stephen Stay was 39 years old, a devoted husband, a hands-on father, and a hard-working real estate agent who built his business through reliability and trust. People knew him as calm, dependable, and deeply committed to providing a stable life for his family. His wife, Katie Stay, was 33. She was warm, expressive, and fiercely protective of the people she loved. Katie believed in second chances. She believed that helping someone escape hardship was simply the right thing to do, even when it came at a personal cost. That belief would ultimately place her family directly in the path of unimaginable violence. Together, Stephen and Katie had 4 children. Brian, 13, was thoughtful and mature beyond his years. Teachers described him as kind-hearted, the kind of student who looked out for others. He loved basketball and dreamed of playing competitively as he got older. Emily, 9, was creative and imaginative, always drawing and telling stories. Her younger sister Rebecca, 7, adored animals and talked endlessly about becoming a veterinarian someday. The youngest, Zachary, was just 4 years old. He loved dinosaurs, laughed easily, and followed his siblings everywhere, desperate to be part of whatever they were doing. And then there was Cassidy. At teen, Cassidy was the oldest, a quiet leader in the family. She helped with homework, read bedtime stories, and took her role as a big sister seriously. She was active in church, dependable, and deeply connected to her siblings. No one could have imagined that she would soon be forced to carry the weight of survival alone. In 2012, the Stay family had moved from California to Texas, searching for a fresh start. Spring felt safe, predictable, like the kind of place where nothing truly bad could happen. By the summer of 2014, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. July 9th began like any other Wednesday. The sun was bright, the house was quiet. There was no sense of danger, no warning that by the end of the day, nearly everyone inside that home would be gone. At around 2:30 in the afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Cassidy answered it. Standing outside was a man wearing what appeared to be a FedEx uniform. He carried a clipboard. His posture was casual, practiced, convincing enough to avoid suspicion. He asked for her parents. Cassidy explained they weren't home yet. The man left. But something about the interaction lingered. His face seemed familiar, though Cassidy couldn't place why. Still, Nothing about the moment felt alarming enough to call for help. Then, minutes later, he came back. This time, the disguise was gone. No clipboard, no smile. He told Cassidy who he was. Ronald Lee Haskell, her aunt's former husband. The moment Cassidy tried to shut the door, he forced his way inside. That was the instant everything changed. What Cassidy didn't know yet was that this wasn't a spontaneous act of rage. It was planned, calculated, and designed to leave no survivors. As she was overpowered and restrained on the living room floor, Ronald Haskell waited. Because he wasn't there for just one person. He was there for all of them. Playing dead, Ronald Haskell didn't rush. That was the most terrifying part. After forcing his way inside the stay home, he restrained Cassidy with zip ties and duct tape, forcing her face down onto the living room floor. She could hear him moving around the house, calm and methodical, as if he had all the time in the world. Because he did. He wasn't there for chaos. He was there to wait. Haskell had come prepared. The restraints in his pockets weren't improvised. They were proof that this was never about a confrontation. It was about control. He positioned Cassidy where she couldn't see the front door, where she could only listen as time stretched unbearably forward. Minutes later, the front door opened. Stephen and Katie Stay had returned home. They had no warning, no chance to react. The moment they stepped inside, Haskell ambushed them, weapon already drawn. Cassidy could hear the confusion in their voices turn instantly into fear, the sound of bodies being forced down, the unmistakable noise of restraints tightening around wrists. Then came the children. One by one. Brian arrived, then Emily, then Rebecca, then little Zachary. Each of them walked into what should have been the safest place in their world, only to be bound, silenced, and forced onto the floor beside their family. No screams, no struggle loud enough to bring help, just a quiet, methodical unfolding of horror. 7 people, lined up, face down. Haskell began asking questions. He wanted to know where Melanie was, his ex-wife. He demanded to know why Katie had helped her escape. His voice grew sharper with every unanswered question. Katie refused to betray her sister. Stephen tried to reason with him. That was when Haskell raised the gun. What followed was swift and merciless. One by one, he fired. Execution style. 13 shots echoed through the house. Stephen, Katie, Brian, Emily, Rebecca, Zachary, Cassidy. He shot them all in the back of the head. The youngest was 4 years old. The oldest, 15. When the gunfire stopped, the house went silent. Haskell stood over them, convinced he had erased an entire family. But he was wrong. Cassidy was still alive. The bullet had fractured her skull. Blood poured down her face. The tip of her finger was gone. By every medical standard, she should have died on that living room floor, but she didn't. And in that moment, surrounded by the bodies of her parents and siblings, Cassidy made a decision that would save lives. She played dead. She slowed her breathing until it was nearly imperceptible. She forced her body into complete stillness, even as pain screamed through her head. Every instinct begged her to run, to scream, to escape, but she didn't move, because she knew if she did, he would finish the job. Haskell walked among the bodies. Cassidy felt him pass her, felt the vibration of his footsteps through the floor. She didn't flinch when he looked down at her, didn't react as blood continued to pool beneath her face. She played dead. She slowed her breathing until it was nearly imperceptible. She forced her body into complete stillness, even as pain screamed through her head. Every instinct begged her to run, to scream, to escape. But but she didn't move, because she knew if she did, he would finish the job. Haskell walked among the bodies. Cassidy felt him pass her, felt the vibration of his footsteps through the floor. She didn't flinch when he looked down at her, didn't react as blood continued to pool beneath her face. Minutes passed. Then, finally, she heard him leave. The front door closed. The house was silent again. Cassidy waited. She didn't know how long. Seconds felt like hours. When she was certain he was gone, she forced herself to move. Her vision blurred. Her head throbbed violently. But she stood, alone, in a house that moments earlier had been full of life. She found a phone and dialed 911. Her voice was calm, but urgent. She told the dispatcher what had happened. She described the shooter, his clothing, his weapon, the vehicle he had taken when he fled. Most importantly, she told them where he was going next. Ronald Haskell wasn't finished. He was heading toward another relative's home with the intention of killing again. That information triggered an immediate, massive law enforcement response across Harris County. Patrol units, tactical teams, and emergency services mobilized within minutes. Because of Cassidy's call, police located the stolen vehicle before Haskell could reach his next targets. What followed was a high-speed chase through quiet suburban neighborhoods, streets filled with families who had no idea how close they were to becoming victims themselves. Officers deployed spike strips, shredding the tires and forcing the car to a stop in a residential cul-de-sac. But even then, Haskell refused to surrender. Surrounded by armed officers, he pressed the gun to his own head. A tense, hours-long standoff followed. Crisis negotiators worked tirelessly, evacuating nearby homes and trying to convince him to put the weapon down. As the Texas sun began to set, Haskell finally emerged from the vehicle. Hands raised, alive, because of Cassidy. She survived the unimaginable, and because she did, Ronald Haskell would never hurt anyone else. But the story was far from over. Because the question still remained, who was Ronald Haskell, and how did he become capable of annihilating an entire family? The punishment. To understand how the Stay family was destroyed, investigators had to answer one final question. Who was Ronald Lee Haskell? On the surface, his past didn't resemble that of a monster. Ronald Haskell was born in California in the mid-1950s and grew up in a quiet suburban environment. In school, he wasn't an outcast or a loner. He was popular, charismatic, well-liked enough to be voted homecoming king during his senior year. Friends described him as funny, social, and confident, someone who enjoyed attention and blended easily into any crowd. No one could have predicted what he would become. After high school, Haskell drifted. He spent time working in Alaska's oil industry, living a harsh and isolated lifestyle before eventually settling in Utah. There, he became deeply involved in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was through the church that he met Melanie, Katie Stay's sister. To outsiders, their relationship looked stable. They married quickly and had 4 children together. Within their religious community, they appeared to be a model family. But behind closed doors, the reality was far darker. In 2008, police were called to their home after a violent domestic incident. Haskell had dragged Melanie out of bed by her hair and beaten her while their children were present. Officers found her injured, terrified, and desperate to escape. Haskell was arrested and charged with domestic violence-related offenses, but the consequences were minimal. The most serious charges were dropped in a plea deal. Haskell received probation and anger management classes, a punishment many would later call catastrophic failure of the justice system. The abuse continued. By 2013, Melanie had endured enough. She filed for a protective order and began divorce proceedings. Eventually, she was granted custody of the children. Desperate to escape her ex-husband, she turned to her sister, Katie Stay. Katie didn't hesitate. The Stay family helped Melanie relocate to Texas. They offered housing, childcare, and emotional support. They helped her rebuild her life. To Ronald Haskell, this wasn't kindness, it was betrayal. In his mind, Katie and her family had taken something from him, his control, and he became obsessed with punishing them for it. 1 week before the massacre, Haskell's own mother walked into a California police station and requested a restraining order against her son. She reported that he had bound her with duct tape, held her captive for hours, and threatened to kill multiple family members, including the Stays. Police attempted to locate him. They failed. Because by then, Ronald Haskell was already driving nearly 2,000 miles toward Texas, with murder on his mind. In the days following the massacre, Haskell was formally charged with 6 counts of capital murder. Prosecutors sought the death penalty. When he appeared in court, he collapsed. The trial would be delayed for years as defense attorneys raised competency challenges and psychiatric evaluations. But when proceedings finally began in 2019, 5 years after the crime, the evidence was overwhelming. Cassidy testified. She faced the man who had murdered her parents and siblings and calmly told the jury exactly what he had done. Her 911 call, forensic evidence, and ballistic reports left no room for doubt. On September 26, 2019, the jury returned its verdict. Guilty. 6 counts of capital murder. 2 weeks later, Ronald Haskell was sentenced to death by lethal injection. He was sent to death row in Texas, where he remains today. But the most powerful moment didn't come from the judge. It came from Cassidy. During sentencing, she stood and addressed the man who had tried to erase her entire family. She spoke of forgiveness, not for his sake, but for her own. She said she no longer expected remorse from him, that her closure would not come from his pain. And then she ended with words that would echo far beyond that courtroom. I hope that when you die, you will get the punishment you deserve from God. In the aftermath, the community mourned. More than 1,000 people attended the funeral for Stephen, Katie, Brian, Emily, Rebecca, and Zachary. Schools created memorials. Strangers donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to support Cassidy's recovery. She was released from the hospital just days after being shot in the head. Physically scarred, emotionally shattered, but alive. Today, Cassidy lives a private life. She completed her education. She surrounded herself with loved ones. And while the pain never fully disappears, she chose to live, not in fear, but in honor of the family she lost. The Stay family is gone, but their story remains. A warning about unchecked violence, a reminder of the cost of ignoring red flags, and proof that even in the darkest moments, survival can become an act of defiance. If this story moved you, disturbed you, or made you think, please take a moment to reflect on the warning signs we often overlook. If you appreciate true crime stories told with respect for the victims and a focus on truth, not sensationalism, consider subscribing to the channel. New cases are posted regularly. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Do you believe justice was truly served in this case? And as always, stay aware, stay safe, and thank you for watching.